Hi, my name is Richard Parayno, and I'm currently working as the Chief Design Officer of Hostari. We're a SaaS startup mainly working in the game server hosting verticals, and we're also working on a bunch of different other industry verticals like newsletters. Aside from my current work, I'm also wrapping up my master in human computer interaction at the University of Salzburg and the Salzburg University of Applied Sciences here in Austria. I used to be a UXPH volunteer way back in my undergrad years, around 2017, 2018, which was the time when I was still trying to figure out what UX was all about, trying to figure out web design, and also on the side, mainly trying to learn full stack web development as like part of my undergrad degree. During my time as an active volunteer, which was mainly when I was in undergrad and a little bit when I started working in the industry. I mainly worked as like an all-around volunteer for like meetups, in-person events, stuff like that. Occasionally helping out with like publishing the events, basically marketing them through different channels. And also in terms of like specific events that I worked on, I worked as a volunteer during the UXPH 2018 conference, the one in the Globe Tower. I'm basically just an all-around volunteer, so I worked registration, I worked as a runner, I worked as a usher for some of the speakers as well, and mainly back-end stuff. And I also worked on the UXPH Roadshow, I think in Davao, and that was also a great time. It was my first time to fly out of Metro Manila for like a community event, so that was great. It was also a great opportunity to meet all of these fantastic designers, all these fantastic community people outside of Metro Manila, and basically get to know them, get to hang out with them, talk design with them, and just to meet them and try to see where they're coming from, how the state of design is like in their community compared to Metro Manila. And it was a really fulfilling experience. Like in general, as a UXPH volunteer, I definitely learned a lot in my time, and I would say it was super crucial to getting me to where I am now. My career has actually evolved quite a bit ever since I was an active volunteer around 5, 6 years ago. So throughout my volunteering, I really got to meet a lot of people I look up to now and still reach out to from time to time for advice. And it's actually through the community that I got my first job because of my affiliation with UXPH. And so you could definitely say that my career has been heavily influenced by my friends and the folks that I look up to in the design community. And in terms of milestones, I guess the biggest one of my career so far was being able to publish a human computer interaction research paper in Kai, which is one of the top academic research conferences for HCI, and also designing a product that enabled my current company to raise like a 300,000 USD pre-seed round. And that product is actually still one of our biggest, how do you say this, like money makers in terms of our whole company's cash flow? Yeah, that's a great question, actually. So, the most valuable thing that I learned during my time as a volunteer is really how to build a community, how to cultivate it around a certain thing or a certain topic. And my interactions as a volunteer pretty much influenced my current management and mentorship style, specifically when it comes to getting people moving towards a single goal. Another thing that I learned, and I am still building it up right now, is challenging myself with different viewpoints, different opinions, different possibilities when it comes to design as a field. So when I was still volunteering in UXPH, the design industry in the Philippines was still quite small, and it was in UXPH and my time in the User Experience Society in the LSU where I needed to learn all these different topics like conversation design, AI, stuff like that. So we could hopefully build up that knowledge, try to get some speakers for that, try to build up that expertise within the community and try to spread it in the design community. Try to spread that knowledge in the design community back home in the Philippines. The biggest challenge for me was really building up the confidence to actually do UX work, right? So just for some like additional context, I'm a self-taught designer. I don't have a design, I don't have a research background at all, and I wasn't particularly good when it came to my academics. I was just a so-so information technology student back then. So it was really tough for me to break out of that feeling of imposter syndrome and basically trying to do a career shift right at the start of my career, right? Without even industry experience yet. And I guess one anecdote, one particularly rewarding experience I had with overcoming this imposter syndrome early on in my career was when I was assigned this project in my first job where I had to design chatbot interactions, right? And I guess a more recent one as well was when we won second place in a hackathon here in Salzburg, wherein we designed and developed a VR app despite having no actual experience with designing interactions for this spatial computing medium. And I credit a lot of my success to my experiences early on in my career. So I guess you could say that in a way, I wouldn't be here without the UX community in the Philippines. My advice to folks who are just starting out in their careers is to be receptive to different ideas, different experiences than the ones you're used to. UX is a very large field, and good UX looks different to different people. So it's really important for you as an early career designer to cast a wide net, learn as much as you can, and try to think beyond just copy pasting advice from playbooks, blog posts that you see in the internet. I also want to encourage early career designers to, number one, actually use the products you design in the real environment. And number two, to actually use the technologies that you want to design for. Like, for example, if you want to work as a UX designer in areas like AI, VR, you need to have at least used AI tools before, or you need to have actually used the VR headset. The biggest mistake that I see early career designers do is to design in isolation, like just designing the Figma file, shipping it off to engineering, and then working on your next round of design or your next round of research. Right? That's not the best approach to do things. The things that we make, the things that we design are used by real people, and it's important for you to put yourself in the shoes of the user, no matter how corny that sounds. And lastly, I want folks to remember that there's a whole other world of UX out there that doesn't live in your computer. UX is present in physical products, physical experiences, and you would be doing yourself a great disservice if you just hyper focus on on just the digital world. And I know that opportunities in these spaces are rare, but it's important to be aware that the things that we design don't just live in the computer, which was totally new to me. But thanks to the behaviors I picked up in my volunteering days and having access to folks smarter than me, my co volunteers, the mentors inside the org, I was able to study, I was able to apply the conversation design principles, just power through it to some success in that project I was assigned to. Okay, in terms of the future of the UX field, I want to start things off by saying that there is a non zero chance that the nature of our work will be different because of all the new technology coming out. There's a lot of anxiety in the field right now, particularly for newer designers, that they won't be able to find jobs in the market. And my opinion on this is that designers should always take the time to continuously study, improve, and expand their skill sets, especially for us folks working with technology. You need to remember that the world will not stop for you, and all of the responsibility of upskilling yourself lies with you as a person. You do not need a job as well in the industry to learn UX. All of the resources I used early on in my career are still available for free on the internet. And there's actually even more resources now more than ever. And we're also starting to see somewhat of a resurgence, so to speak, of UX designers who have a strong technical background. This is something that I don't really have a strong opinion on, but I do think that if you as a designer doesn't take the effort to understand how things work on a technology perspective, you will have a very hard time. For example, you won't be able to create new interfaces for new technologies like large language models, ChatGPT. if you don't have a general understanding of how it works under the hood. I guess I want to reiterate to all the designers out there to strengthen your fundamentals. I always tell people that the medium or the technology that we design for always changes, but the design principles and foundational knowledge that we have in our field doesn't really change, at least slightly changing. It's the reason why I still anchor a lot of the things that I do now to my experiences back when I was still learning UX and volunteering and being active in the community.